The 19th century was a time of great change and upheaval, with the rise of industrialization, imperialism, and social reform. But amidst this backdrop of progress, there were also leaders who failed to inspire confidence, or worse, wreaked havoc on their countries. Join us as we count down the 8 worst prime ministers of the 1800s. 8. Lord Melbourne, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1834 to 1841, Melbourne was known for his corruption and abuse of power. He was accused of using his position to enrich himself and his friends, and his government was plagued by scandals. Melbourne's government implemented poor economic policies that led to widespread unemployment, poverty, and social unrest. His attempts to reform the economy were unsuccessful, and his government's failure to address the economic crisis contributed to its downfall. Melbourne's government failed to address important social issues such as poverty, education, and the condition of the working class. His government's inaction on these issues contributed to growing discontent among the population. In 1839, Melbourne's government faced a major crisis when he dismissed a number of Conservative members of Parliament from their positions in the bedchamber. This move was seen as an attack on the independence of the House of Lords and led to widespread criticism. 7. Lord Palmerston, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1855 to 1858 and again from 1859 to 1865, is considered one of the worst prime ministers in British history. He was known for his aggressive and interventionist foreign policy, which led to several conflicts and controversies. He was accused of being overly hawkish and prone to acting without consulting Parliament. Palmerston's decision to go to war with Russia in the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, was widely criticized. The war was seen as a disaster, with high casualties and little gain. The British public was outraged, and Palmerston's government was heavily criticized. Palmerston's government repealed the Corn Laws in 1846, which led to widespread economic disruption and social unrest. The repeal was seen as a betrayal by many who had supported the protectionist policies of the Corn Laws. Palmerston's government was criticized for its handling of Ireland, particularly its failure to address the issue of Irish Home Rule. His government's policies were seen as oppressive and contributed to growing nationalist sentiment in Ireland. 6. Benjamin Disraeli, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1868 to 1868 and again from 1874 to 1880, Disraeli's government supported the Afrikaner-led government in South Africa, which implemented apartheid policies that separated white and black people. This has been criticized as racist and discriminatory. Disraeli's government was criticized for its treatment of the Irish, particularly the Irish nationalist movement. His government was seen as repressive and anti-Irish, and his policies contributed to growing tensions between Britain and Ireland. Disraeli's government was embroiled in several railway scandals, including the construction of the Great Western Railway, which was plagued by corruption and financial irregularities. Disraeli's government was criticized for its failure to address social inequality and poverty. His government's policies were seen as perpetuating social injustice and inequality. 5. William Ewart Gladstone, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1868 to 1874, 1880 to 1885, and 1886 to 1894, Gladstone's support for Home Rule for Ireland, which aimed to give Ireland more autonomy and eventually self-government, was met with opposition from many in the British government and the public. His proposals were seen as a threat to the union between England and Scotland and were opposed by many Conservative Party members. Gladstone's economic policies were criticized for being overly focused on free trade and neglecting the welfare of the working class. His government's policies were seen as benefiting the wealthy at the expense of the poor. Gladstone's government was criticized for its failure to address social inequality and poverty. His government's policies were seen as perpetuating social injustice and inequality. Gladstone's government was criticized for its handling of the Bulgarian atrocities during the Russo-Turkish War, 1877 to 1878. The war was seen as a brutal and unjustified intervention in Bulgarian affairs, and Gladstone was accused of using it as a pretext to attack Russia. 4. Robert Jenkinson, 2nd Earl of Liverpool, who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1812 to 1827. Liverpool's government was criticised for its harsh penal policies, including the use of transportation and the suspension of habeas corpus during times of war. Liverpool's government was involved in the Napoleonic Wars, and some historians have criticised his handling of the war effort, particularly his decision to declare war on France in 1803. Liverpool's government responded to the Luddite uprisings, a series of protests by textile workers against new machinery, with force and repression. This led to accusations of brutality and a lack of empathy for the plight of working-class people. Liverpool's government was seen as perpetuating social and economic inequality, with many critics arguing that it favoured the wealthy and powerful at the expense of the poor and marginalised. 3. Henry Addington, 1st Viscount Sidmouth, was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1801 to 1804. Addington is seen as a weak and ineffective leader who failed to provide strong direction and guidance to his government. Addington's government was plagued by allegations of corruption and nepotism, with many high-ranking officials and politicians benefiting from his patronage. Addington's government was criticized for its handling of the French Revolutionary Wars, particularly the disastrous expedition to Egypt in 1801. Addington's government did little to address pressing social and economic issues, such as poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Addington is often criticized for his reluctance to confront Napoleon Bonaparte, who had risen to power in France during the Revolution. He was accused of being indecisive and lacking the courage to take bold action against the French leader. 2. William Grenville, 1st Baron Grenville, was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1806 to 1807. Grenville was seen as a weak and indecisive leader, which led to a lack of direction and coordination within his government. Grenville's government was plagued by internal divisions between different factions within the cabinet, which made it difficult to pass legislation and implement policies. Ineffective handling of the Grenville's government was criticized for its handling of the Napoleonic Wars, particularly the failure to achieve a decisive victory over France. Despite public opinion shifting against the slave trade, Grenville's government failed to take decisive action to abolish it, which led to widespread criticism. Grenville's government was accused of corruption and nepotism, with many high-ranking officials and politicians benefiting from his patronage. 1. Arthur Wellesley, 1st Duke of Wellington, was a military leader and statesman who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1828 to 1830, but his premiership was relatively short-lived and not particularly notable. Wellington's premiership was marked by a lack of clear policy direction and vision, leading to confusion and infighting within the government. Wellington was a military man, not a politician, and his inexperience in politics led to mistakes and missteps. Wellington's government did little to address pressing social issues such as poverty, inequality, and the needs of the working class. Wellington's government was plagued by internal rivalries and power struggles between different factions within the cabinet. The British economy was experiencing difficulties during Wellington's premiership, with high levels of unemployment, inflation, and trade problems. And there you have it, 8 prime ministers who failed to inspire confidence or left their mark on history. From corruption and scandals to poor leadership and division, these leaders left their countries reeling. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.